Welcome back to Peerless Martial God. Chapter 26. You again. Lin Feng was only at the 8th chi layer, but Lu Liang still perceived Lin Feng as a threat. Lin Feng was absolutely convinced that if he had reached the 9th chi layer, then this would be a completely balanced fight between them. 9 heavy waves. The atmosphere filled with an oppressive aura as the waves poured from Lin Feng's fist. The colossal shock waves surged towards Lu Liang, fracturing claws. Lu Liang lifted up his hand, his fingers were now claws which looked like razor-sharp hooks. Suddenly, a strong chi burst forth from his body and dominated the atmosphere within the mountains. The powerful waves vanished like smoke with no resistance. Roaring thunder. Lin Feng thrust his sword towards Lu Liang. Every one of Lin Feng's movements would disturb the atmosphere with vibrations. Even his long sword, which had been carefully stopped between Lu Liang's claws, was vibrating with power. Lin Feng was becoming more of a problem over time. Lu Liang had the feeling of numbness coming from his hand, so he had no choice but to let go of Lin Feng's sword. But when Lu Liang let go of Lin Feng's long sword, he thrust his claws directly towards the unsuspecting Lin Feng. Lin Feng could sense the change in power and felt the initial shockwave, which made him groan with pain as he was sent flying with the power from the strike. Lu Liang had an eagle spirit. He had a sharp and precise destructive power. This was his main strength. Physical strength was secondary to him, but his attacks could still reach the strength of 10,000 jin, which represented a superhuman physical strength. Lin Feng doubted in his mind. He was not sure if he could win this fight. The difference between the 8th chi layer and the Ling chi layer was too big. There was a huge gap between the chi layer and the Ling chi layer. Fighting someone of the Ling chi layer when at the chi layer was a gap in power that could not be crossed with technique alone. Lin Feng really wanted to defeat Lu Liang, but that was unrealistic. Roaring thunder. Lin Feng wielded his sword to strike out again. Lin Feng didn't take the initiative to attack though. Sword strikes one after the other. Lin Feng was striking repeatedly in the air around him. Endless thunderous roars could be heard from the air around him. The entire cave was full of thunderous roars, as if the god of thunder had gone on a rampage within this mountain. In the short amount of time it took Lin Feng to deliver these multiple strikes, Lin Feng's body was surrounded by an aura of chi which filled the air. He was enveloped in the devastating chi from his sword, looking like a bubble surrounding him. Defense? You still think you can defend? I will take this opportunity to show you how laughable your defense will be against attacks from an opponent at Ling chi layer, said Lu Liang while laughing. The wings of the eagle spirit started to move and the eagle threw itself in Lin Feng's direction. A powerful chi collided into the energy bubble made completely from sword chi. Boom! Lin Feng, who was enveloped in the sword chi, felt that he was sitting in a small boat which carefully floated upon a large ocean. Currently his boat was not tranquil and was being tossed back and forth from a gigantic storm which had invaded his large ocean. The opponent's chi was bombarding the chi bubble from every direction, making it hard for the bubble to completely protect him from every strike. His body had received some damage from the strikes which had passed the chi bubble. However, the ocean of chi still looked as calm and graceful as ever. Soaring eagle. Lu Liang saw that the chi from his claws had almost no effect on Lin Feng. Lu Liang crouched down and both his hands transformed his chi into eagles which flew up in the air, then begun to soar downwards directly towards Lin Feng inside the chi bubble. The chi eagles soared down into Lu Liang's claws which struck out at Lin Feng. Boom! The shockwave from this attack caused the sword chi around Lin Feng to shake violently. Lin Feng's body also shook a little bit before he could fully stabilize himself. The chi bubble had stabilized again and Lin Feng returned to his motionless state. When Lu Liang saw that he couldn't carry out any efficient attack on a cultivator who had yet to pass into the Ling chi layer, he went into a frenzy of madness. His entire body turned into an eagle and he began to wildly attack in the direction of Lin Feng. Lin Feng was enduring stronger and stronger attacks. Lu Liang's power in his wild fury was growing stronger with his fury. The entire cave was full of thunderous roars which were being emitted by the sword chi surrounding Lin Feng. Rocks had started to fall from the cave roof, then explode from the pressure, which gave the impression that the cave was ready to collapse at any moment. Lin Feng had blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. All of Lu Liang's attacks were now releasing strength no less than 12,000 jin. His attacks followed an irregular pattern as he was just striking wildly, making it hard to correctly dodge incoming attacks. Lin Feng's body was growing more and more damaged as he continued to endure the relentless attacks. I should finish this. Lin Feng's eyes were cold. He gently moved his long sword slowly through the air, which released an invisible pressure. An incredible amount of sword chi was moving from the atmosphere towards his sword. Incredibly powerful thunderous roars were being unleashed with only a slow and gentle movement of his sword. Sword force, the natural energy of the sword, had surrounded him. This is the true power of roaring thunder, which can annihilate anything in its path. A truly devastating force was being emitted from Lin Feng's sword. The whole atmosphere was consumed by the presence of his sword. Lu Liang was aware that an incredible power was moving closer to him. His eagle spirit was shaking and immediately began to retreat. The sword force was so violent that the eagle spirit had retreated in a flash. You are listening to Peerless Martial God audio on light novel Aloud. Lin Feng didn't stop moving his sword, which was gathering more and more sword chi inside. He started using his moonlight feather agility technique to approach the retreating Lu Liang. Terrifying thunderous roars were coming from Lin Feng's sword and bombarded Lu Liang. Soaring eagle, shouted Lu Liang while his two hands unleashed qi, which once again turned into two eagles which rose into the air. The qi combining again into his claws was incomparably powerful. Boom! A terrifying explosion of power filled the cave completely. The entire cave was trembling. Moonlight feather agility. Lin Feng's entire body transformed into a ray of moonlight, illuminating the entire cave. As he moved towards the exit of the cave, his sword flashed out. A horrible shriek filled the air. Bastard! Shouted Lu Liang in a thundering rage, whose arms were completely drenched with blood. He had been severely injured by taking Lin Feng's attack. If Lu Liang had not moved back at the moment of the attack, he may have lost his life. Lu Liang would have never thought that a guy of the 8th Qi layer could fight him, injure him, and on top of that, kill his own brother right in front of him. Lu Liang hugged his brother's dying body. His expression was savage and his face was completely twisted with grief and anger. At that moment he truly looked like a demon. There was a massive amount of blood flowing out of Lu Fei's throat. He had already taken his last breath. Lin Feng had managed to slit his throat during his escape from the cave. It was Lin Feng's revenge masterpiece. As long as I, Lu Liang, am alive in this world, you will never have peace. Lu Liang's voice resonated in the cave and sounded like it came from a demon locked in hell. Shui Huan was terrified and was shivering in fear. She was leaning against the wall of the cave as she no longer had the strength to stand by herself. She had also never thought that Lin Feng's strength would be so powerful that even Lu Liang would end up in such a miserable state. If Lin Feng had heard Lu Liang's shouts, he would have a sarcastic smile on his face from the result of his masterpiece. Lu Liang would chase him forever and he would never have peace. Why would he need to say such useless words? If he chased him forever, then he would suffer the same fate as his brother. Lin Feng was no longer generous enough to let a person leave with their life a second time. This was the deal he had already made clear. Yet Lu Fei still came back for revenge. He would only let Lu Fei keep his life once. Lin Feng wasn't the kind of person who was evil. He would never take the initiative to go and provoke others. He didn't frequently kill other people if he didn't need to, but if others provoked him and tried to kill him, he obviously protected himself and resisted. Lin Feng ran for half an hour and gradually slowed down. He coughed up blood that he had been restraining since the fight. Lin Feng was also injured heavily in the fight and was actually at a larger disadvantage. If the fight continued, he would have lost his life. This is why he left a distraction behind for his opponent and left while pretending to be unharmed. After all, there was a huge level difference between his opponent and him. He was only at the 8th Qi layer and had fought against a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer. That fight, he was proud of himself. He took out the jar filled with profound healing pills. He took out a healing pill, put it in his mouth and swallowed it immediately. A refreshing and comfortable sensation spread throughout his body. He had the feeling that his thoughts, which had become slow, suddenly became clear and quick again. He could think clearly and quickly again. He felt refreshed. In an instant, his wounds were all cured. What an efficient, profound pill. Lin Feng's eyes revealed how pleasantly surprised he was. No wonder Protector Kong had said that one was enough to cure Hanman. Lin Feng had found it suspicious as he did not believe he could easily receive a jar of pills which were such high quality. He had given 3 pills at once to Hanman and he had even given 3 more pills to Jing Wuhen in case they were not enough. Where there is precaution, there is no danger, but at that moment Lin Feng understood how powerful and rare these profound pills really were. Not only did Lin Feng have the feeling his injuries were completely recovered, but he also had the feeling that his strength had once again greatly improved. No wonder so many cultivators want to use profound pills, they are extremely powerful. Even healing pills have such a great benefit to cultivation. In the continent of the 9 clouds, many cultivators concocted profound pills and fabricated weapons. The ones who could concoct profound pills and create weapons were extremely respected as they were masters amongst masters. They had a very high status in society as it was rare to find someone talented in these fields of expertise. There were people who concocted healing pills within the Yunhai sect as well, but because Lin Feng was only an ordinary disciple, he still hadn't had the opportunity to come into contact any of these masters. Engaging in battles is the best way to improve on the path of cultivation as it is not artificially created by an outside power. These profound pills were just an aid that had to be used alongside struggles within battle. Lin Feng had obviously gone through a lot of hardships on the path of cultivation already. He now had to find another good place to practice and consolidate his knowledge from this battle. This could be the opportunity to break through to the 9th Qi layer. After breaking through to the 9th Qi layer, he would go back to Yangzhou City and attend the annual meeting with his cousin. Lin Feng turned around and looked at the landscape. It looked surprisingly familiar. It was here originally, thought Lin Feng with shiny eyes. He immediately gazed into the distance and smiled. He could see 2 mountains in the distance which seemed to have been split open by a sword. These were the mountains where he had seen the sunlight passing through the mountain, but had run into a ruthless girl there. I found such a nice cave to practice. I wouldn't have thought that there were such nice places around here. I guess I will have to make it my own. Lin Feng obviously wasn't going to forget that that girl had tried to kill him twice. This time, he was going to see if her attacks could even reach a hair on his body. Lin Feng walked quicker and quicker towards the mountain cave. He then arrived and entered without hesitating whatsoever. When Lin Feng entered the cave out from which the sunlight was shining through, some people saw him and couldn't help but be stupefied at such a spectacle. They stayed outside to watch Lin Feng be forced from within the cave. That disciple dared get into fellow disciple Lu Fei's restricted area without permission. He really was acting recklessly. As long as he did not act foolishly when inside, then he would be forced outside and beaten for his crime. A short instant later, Lin Feng had entered into the open area inside the mountain again. He was standing in front of the hot spring. There were still many caves there. If there was nobody to disturb, those were really perfect for cultivation. At that moment, just like last time, Lu Fei's was under the water of the hot spring cultivating. Her head was beneath the water, making it only possible to see her upon inspection. Her eyes were closed and she was holding her breath to cultivate. That way of practicing was a great way to improve one's breathing techniques. By improving her breathing technique, Lu Fei could shoot multiple arrows in a single breath. The power of her arrows would also be stronger and more powerful. Lin Feng did not recklessly jump in this time. He was waiting for her to resurface. When her beautiful face appeared on the surface of the water, Lu Fei saw Lin Feng standing there. She couldn't help but be surprised. She immediately narrowed her eyes with a hint of anger. She said in an ice-cold tone, "You again?" "Indeed, it's me again," said Lin Feng with a cold tone hidden in his voice. After having fought against a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer, he felt he had enough power to engage in a battle with Lu Fei. Even though Lu Fei one of the best ordinary disciples, Lin Feng felt confident. After all, Lin Feng was not as strong as Jing Hao and he had defeated Jing Hao. However, their fighting styles were different and he had to be careful. End of chapter 26. Hope you guys enjoy the chapter. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell button for future updates.